Hey guys, Martin here. We're still here, number 50-something. I'm not sure which one this will be. I'm just recording it in a vacuum. Not a literal vacuum, obviously, or I'd be struggling to breathe. But I'm recording this not knowing when it's going to go out. So 50-something, I'm just going to be safe and say that. But I know the one that I put up last week was a bit bleak. I don't know how you guys took it, but when I was filming it, it felt like just a huge downer. I mean, obviously a lot of these are a downer. That's kind of the point, is that we're all down. And I'm trying to pick us up, and I'm trying to, pick myself up, but that's not always going to happen. Sometimes it's just going to be me being down, unfortunately. But the fact is that I'm here this week, and I'm not as down as I was. I'm a bit down, I won't lie. I'm a bit down, but I'm sure some of you have come to expect it, or, that's just how I am right now. But hey, I'm doing much better than I was, and hopefully that's enough, to make last week's worthwhile, is to show, me in my, a really bad state, and go from that to this, in a good state, with my puppy rolling around on the floor like a maniac. I don't know if you can hear her. She's swinging a toy around. What are you doing? What are you doing? You want this? You want this? Okay, go ahead. So I apologize for that background noise, but I wanted to start this We're Still Here off with something I've not done in a while, which is to say what makes me happy. Until you make me happy, but that's not what I'm talking about this time. It's about pro wrestling, so yay. Pro wrestling is an acquired taste, and I'm not going to mince words. Pro wrestling is stupid. It's really stupid. I'm pretty stupid too, though, so I'm sure that's one of the reasons why I enjoy it so much, is just that I'm stupid. And, if that's, all you see it as is a dumb, violent soap opera where two men slap each other while not wearing very much, some people see it that way. I see it as a story, I see it as a means of telling a story. A lot of people liken wrestling to Dragon Ball Z when they're comparing it to something, that's comparable. But I always liken it to Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack's my favorite cartoon, and I'm sure at some point, if I do another, what makes me happy segment, I'll talk about that at some point. If I haven't already, I'll have to go back and check. But Samurai Jack is a very simple story. It's good versus evil, in its most classic form. But it's told with, almost no dialogue most of the time. Samurai Jack, considering he's voiced by Phil Lamar, who is one of my heroes, he doesn't say much. So you might as well not have Phil Lamar around half the time. I wouldn't ever say that, really. But Samurai Jack is a show with a very simple message told beautifully through the animation. Wrestling is always a simple good versus evil, usually, story. Sometimes they play around with the morality aspect of it. But it's a very simple story told physically between two men with no dialogue, and they have to get you involved in that story. And sometimes they use theatrics to get you involved. They'll have, obviously the soap opera element where, people will interfere in the matches and it'll be emotional, there'll be a storyline involved outside of the match. But the match itself, to me, is where the real story takes place, no matter how the rest of it is presented. When you see two men, and a lot of people are like, well, they're just going through they're just doing what they're scripted to do. A lot of those matches are called in the ring. The wrestlers themselves will tell each other what they're about to do in the middle of the match. A lot of it is ad-libbing, and a lot of it is improv. People don't realize that. But you have to have a good knack for telling a story in order to really get the audience on your side. When you have just usually two men with nothing else to express what they're doing than just their physicality and the way they move about the ring, the moves that they hit, the psychology of the match itself. When you have all of those elements going, at the best they can be, there's nothing more exhilarating as a fan, as a member of the audience, to get involved in that storyline. Obviously it's very violent, and obviously wrestling definitely has a lot of drawbacks. I think the way that women are treated in the wrestling industry is shameful. I think for the most part, especially with what the WWE used to do, I've been rewatching old WWE episodes and pay-per-views on the WWE network, and just seeing the way the women's division was treated up until even just like 3 or 4 years ago is ludicrous. It's offensive, but at the same time, you know, the stuff they do today with the women is significantly better. Still could do with some fixing. But at the same time, while it does have a lot of those drawbacks, and a lot of them are seriously a problem, when you see someone like a man that I've talked about previously in We're Still Here, like Daniel Bryan, doing the thing that he loves to do, telling a story with his body, you know, and just like when they're on their A game, when you have two people who love to work together, despite the fact that they're beating the hell out of each other, when you can see two people loving working together and doing some amazing things in the ring, very few things make me happier than seeing that. You know, despite the violence and the unfortunate injuries involved. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what it is about wrestling specifically. There's just too much to talk about, you know. There's the theatrical aspect. One of the reasons I got into wrestling was playing the video games and seeing all the wrestlers in their costumes and being like, why is he dressed like that? Why does he act like that? Why does he say that? Why has that guy got a mask on? You know, that sort of thing. That gets me all interested, and like the comic book aspect of it. You know, you want to know more about these characters, where they came from. And sometimes you never find out. Sometimes the WWE doesn't write those storylines, but it gets you thinking about it, you know? It gets you thinking, and you want to fill in the gaps that the WWE often unintentionally leaves in the storytelling, and you want to make these stories work, as dumb as they are sometimes. Like the fact that Kane is a demonic creature, you know, not really. He's a guy who got burned in a fire, and he's basically Hannibal Lecter, you know, if he was badly burned. He's like Jason Voorhees. But then you take that character and you say that they had a girlfriend and they got in a car accident and one of them had been drinking, and you're like, hang on, you're an insane serial killer who has been burned from head to toe, like you were 5 years ago anyway. So you start wanting to be like, this doesn't make sense, but what if I could make it make sense by tying these stories together? You know, a lot of it is fanfic writing in my head. I don't know. I used to wrestle on an E-Fed. This is going to make a lot of you laugh. The E-Feds are basically like online role-playing wrestling federations, and I used to wrestle by the name The Green Meanie, which was a reference to obviously the Blue Meanie, who was a wrestler and a character from the Beatles movie Yellow Submarine, but also the Green Goblin in Spider-Man, the original Sam Raimi movie, which had just come out at the time when I was coming up with a wrestler for, you know, what I wanted to do with my original character, Do Not Steal. There's a scene where Ted Raimi suggests the name Green Meanie for the Green Goblin, and I was like, that sounds like a cool wrestler name, and I could just play off of the whole Blue Meanie thing, and I'll dress like the Green Goblin, and that'll be my thing. And I wrote the longest promos. Like when I talk about promos, I mean like when they're doing interviews, you know, sometimes just solo to the camera. But I would do promos that would last longer than our pay-per-views in the E-Fed, just because I just would not want to stop writing. You know, I just wanted to keep writing, and I get very self-indulgent with that sort of thing. You know, I'm like, hey, if you give me time and access to a writing software, I'll just write and never stop. But yeah, I love wrestling. I look at the camera and I see I've been talking for around 10 minutes, and I'm like, I've not even started to scratch the surface of why I like wrestling. When wrestling is really good, when wrestling is firing on all cylinders, I wouldn't say it's the best thing in the world, but for me, it's one of the best feelings I have, because I just get so worked up in a way that very few things get me excited, you know? The way I feel when I watched like Ghostbusters for the first time as a child, you know, not just the movie but the cartoon. Like I was really into it, and I was getting behind those characters, and you know, it was just so much fun. And that's the feeling I have, you know, when I watch a good wrestling match. You know, when I watch like Steve Austin versus Bret Hart from WrestleMania 13, where they tell this incredible story without any dialogue. I'm a huge fan of when someone tells a story with no dialogue. I loved the first 30 minutes of Wall-E, you know, but, you know, wrestling, it gets me excited, and not a lot of things do these days. So I'm really sort of just, Tilly's going nuts, she's wrestling with herself. I really, really want to share and enjoy and and experience as much wrestling as possible right now when I'm, not at my best, but that picks me up, And if you have something, and obviously wrestling is popular, but it also, in certain communities and in certain circles, it is looked down upon. So, I'm often embarrassed. In fact, I was specifically embarrassed to talk about or do anything with my love of wrestling for a long time, because first of all, people would be like, why aren't you doing something Yu-Gi-Oh related? And second of all, I was worried I'd be embarrassed, because, and can you blame me? It is wrestling. But if there's something that you love that makes you that excited and that you're that passionate about, that, you might feel that your friends will laugh at you for it, or anybody, if you're embarrassed about it for any reason, don't let it prevent you from enjoying it, even if you have to keep it to yourself, because, maybe if somebody found out you did enjoy it, I don't know, who knows what the situation is. There are some people who I just can't talk to about wrestling because they'll be like, oh, he's talking about wrestling again. But if you feel that's the case, don't let it stop you from experiencing it and enjoying it and loving it the amount that you do. Don't be ashamed to go nuts sometimes with this stuff, because you need that. You need that from time to time. And if you let other people tell you what you're meant to love, and if you let other people tell you how to enjoy things, then you will never enjoy things to your maximum potential, and you will never know how much you could have enjoyed it, or how much it would have improved your life and your way of thinking and your way of being. So don't be embarrassed about what you enjoy. Another thing I enjoy is a nice cup of tea at the end of the day. It's not the end of the day just yet, it's like 7 p.m, but it's getting there, We're winding down. Today I went to the Ren Fair with a large group of people, and they're all good people and they're all good friends of mine. But there are times when I just don't want to be around anybody. I've been struggling lately with the feeling that the days when I work, I'm doing something that I want to do, but it's because it's work and I need to get it done in order to just be able to keep going. Which isn't a great feeling, but the feeling I get on my days off, I often feel like, hey, I have time, but I'm not spending it doing the stuff that I want to do. And 95% of the time, and this is on me, the stuff I want to do is just be alone and just chill out and play a video game or a movie. And that's not healthy. That's not healthy most of the time. There are going to be times when you can take time for yourself. And I'll be honest, I take too much time for myself sometimes. Yeah, and it's okay in moderation, like I said, but even though I didn't want to be around people today, it's important that I was, because I had some really negative thoughts. I go into hermit mode way too often, and that's something I'm realizing way too late. I used to be like a hermit permanently. Like, I've talked about this in other videos, but I used to just cut myself off from people and stay in one room and just want to be left alone. That's my dog making some scratching herself right now. Tilly! I used to just want to be alone all the time, and that was, that worked for me because I felt too afraid to do anything else. But it was killing me, at the end of the day. If I'd stayed that way, I would have been very alone for a large portion of my life, and I wouldn't have been able to cope, and I wouldn't have been able to get work, and I wouldn't have been able to be anything just other than a hermit, And there are times in my life when that sounds appealing, but it's not. It's not what I want. This is one of those days, one of those moments when I have a lot of clarity about myself, and it doesn't happen very often. So you call me at a good time, but I don't want to be a hermit. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to die. I don't want anything negative to happen to me. I don't want anything negative to happen to anybody. Or I want to be, more than anything, I want to be with somebody. I want to be with Mariana, and I want to be with her for the rest of my life, and die, old and having loved her my whole life and having loved life. And that's what I want, But there are times when I feel like the old me is calling out and being like, no, no, remember how good this was? Remember how easy it was? Remember how easy we had it? There was nobody to tell us what to do. There was nobody around at all, and you didn't owe anybody anything, and you didn't have to go out of your way to make sure people knew that you cared, because there were no people, there were no friends, there was nothing. And nothing was easy to deal with when you want nothing. But I don't want nothing. I want a good life. I want to be able to give a good life to the people around me. And I don't want people to think, you know, if this segment means anything, it's just my way of saying that I don't want people, if anything happens to me, I don't want people to think that I just wanted to be miserable and that I just wanted to be helpless and then I just wanted the worst. I want good things. But, you know, today at the Ren Fair, things got overwhelming, but I stuck with it because I want to be there with those people and I want to see them all having a good time. And I want to be able to have a good time with them. Just right now I can't. Because I'm feeling the way I am, and it's not something I have any control over. I'm all over the place. I had a really brief thought today where I told myself, I can't wait to go to sleep, but I don't want tomorrow to come. You know, I want to skip today, but I don't want to have to worry about tomorrow. And that's a dangerous line of thought. And it went away very quickly because I was with friends. And I imagine if I wasn't with them that it would have stayed and it would have gotten worse and bigger in my head. But it went away. But if you're dealing with those thoughts and you don't have anybody around you, if you know anybody who would be willing to listen, please contact them and talk to them. If you want to write them down in a journal, just to get them out of your system and see them on the paper and see how small those words are and how they are just words, and if they feel like they're words that could, you know, lead you to do anything to yourself, please go to the hospital or call one of the suicide helplines. I just want people to know, and I want to know that I want to get better, and I want what I've always wanted, you know, when I'm really me and when I'm in a positive place, which is to be with this amazing person. Sorry about the dog making noises. To be with this amazing person in my life, and to find out what happens 80 years from now. No, not 80 years from now. I'll maybe like 110. 60 years from now, when we're old and fed up with each other, but we still have each other, and I can still hold her hand if I want to. And that's what I want. Nothing else. I just want to be with someone. Tilly, stop chewing that thing. What have you got? What are you chewing on? Oh, she's chewing on a toy Sven from Frozen. She has an Olaf, a Kristoff, and a Sven. And she's torn 2 of them to pieces. Look, he has no antlers. She bit them off. Can you believe that? Tilly, you want to go fetch it? Alright. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say today. And I do apologize for last week's episode. Tilly, I know you want me to throw it again. I do apologize for last week's because I know it was down and there wasn't anything really to gain from it. You know, it was just me being down and nothing else. And that's not what I wanted this to be. So that's on me. That's my bad. But that was all I could do at the time. I apologize for all the noises from my dog, and I'm sure she's shaken the camera a few times from bumping into the tripod. But I do hope you're doing okay. And I see you next week. You take care of yourself.